This meeting is being recorded.
Good morning to all who are coming online for this Auntie Webinar about combining family and work life. I will give you a few moments to jump online before we begin with the actual presentation of today. While we are waiting for people to come online, I want to remind you that your microphones are muted. If you have any questions about this webinar topic, you can present them in the Q&A section, and we will go through some of them at the end. That being said, we try to be mindful of the time frame, so we will be ending this webinar 1:30, just so that everyone can continue with their day and their daily schedule, whatever you have planned. This webinar is being recorded, and if you are unable to be present the whole time, you will get the recording afterwards directly to your email. With us, we have our Auntie expert today, Clair van den Boogaard from Netherlands, who will be presenting this topic, and this, might I say, even a relevant topic at this time frame. Christmas is coming, and hectic schedules are something of the daily life for most of us. So how to combine family and work life. So I think that's all I will take of Claire's time. So Claire, stage is yours. Take it away.
Thank you so much for your introduction, and welcome all. So combining work and family life is something that almost all of us are familiar with. And the challenges of balancing work and family life arise particularly when one aspect of life is going to take a little more time and capacity away from the other one. And that means usually that the balance gets upset. So today I invite you to reflect on your own situation, your own work-life balance, your flexibility and your values, and what this allows for you to do and what you may have to consciously give up. And I want you to remember that work and family are not opposites. They're not mutually exclusive. So what is this busiest season in your life? And there are many definitions. Today, we're going to be using it for the periods in life with the most demands: family, the pressure to advance in your career, and maybe also aging parents that need your help. But you also have to think about your own well-being there, exercising, friends, the extended family, your own relationship, the pressure basically to do more than what the hours in the day allows you to. So even though all these things are things that you really want to be doing, here in the Netherlands, we call them the tropical years. And just recently, I heard a story about flamingos, because apparently when they get their babies, they're so busy taking care of them that they lose their color, which is maybe a good metaphor for us, because they will return. All flamingos will return back to pink again. I'm sorry. Which is really funny because now, there we are. So this is me, Clair van den Boogaard, as was very good pronounced, by the way. I'm a vitality coach. I'm specialized in stress and burnout. I'm a cognitive behavioral therapist, and I'm a nutritional expert. And I've been with Auntie for almost 2 years. So maybe some of you have been working with me. That would be really a lot of fun. What I want to do today is of course, I'm going to be sharing lots of insights, lots of tips, lots of advice, but I would also really love to know what your solutions are, because maybe you have the system set up that works perfectly for you, and it would be so lovely for other people to learn about that. So at the end, I'm going to be showing a word cloud, and what I would like to ask you is to go to mentee.com and to use the code that's written down here, and then fill in your 5 top tips. So at the end, we actually get the ability to learn from each other. So what is it that we're going to talk about today? Again, as I said, I want you to reflect on your own situation, the balance of work and family life. So we're going to start with exploring what your life actually looks like, or what you want it to look like. Why are these peak years so burdensome? Because work and parenting, they're so connected, they're so interconnected, really, that usually means that feelings and experiences in one area will trickle down in the other area. And of course, I'm going to show you ways and solutions for your everyday management. So what kind of changes can you actually make at work after the arrival of children? Do you actually have time for yourself and your own needs? And what are those needs in general? But there's also some good news, because in addition to this, you can notice that this stage of life actually gives you a natural opportunity to dive deep into the skills of self-knowledge, time management, resilience, and prioritization. So as I promised, we're going to start with a life that looks like your own. So what would you like your life to look like right now, or maybe even in the next couple of years? I would like to ask you to, if you have pen and paper, to already start writing things down. Write down the elements that are of interest to you. What is it that you find important? What are the difficult choices that you have to make? What does a smooth everyday life look like to you? And don't compare with others, because other people's children, their parents, their jobs are different, as are their support networks. So really focus on your own life. And also take into account that your children will change and your needs will change. And so there are certain time periods with children that are more heavy than others, but they also have a lot of good things. For instance, my oldest, he's full into puberty at the moment, which has a lot of hated things about it. But also I get to see him grow up and become the man that he's about to become. So also think about the things that you really love about that life. And it is a cliche, but it is so true that children are only small for such a short period of time. As I said, my oldest is already 16. I can remember holding him as a baby. So you will get to experience all these last times, the last time that you take him for a bath, the last time that you are folding the little onesies for them. All these kind of things, they will disappear. So keep that in mind as well. What is a good job and family situation for you? What role are you in? But also take into account your own expectations. And could you maybe allow yourself fewer goals? What about a to-do list? And if you make changes, will you follow them? So why are these peak years so burdensome? Busy periods will be burdensome, no matter how much you try to prepare for it. And in our Western culture, where we are so used to getting by on our own and self-survival and focus on performance and competition, that will actually predispose ourselves to exhaustion when it comes to combining all the roles that we have to take on, the role as a parent, as an employee, maybe even as an employer, the role of being a child of someone, being a friend, all these roles that you being a partner as well. Try and combine that and combine that with our culture. It can be really an exhausting thing. And you don't necessarily have any safety nets. Because again, our Western culture is so motivated by doing it for ourselves. But we do have a lot of information coming to us. Maybe you've been reading books on how to raise children. Maybe you've been reading the internet, especially the internet. There's a lot of advice there. Sometimes it can seem impossible to combine and carry out all these instructions in the chaos of everyday life. And of course, we're expected to give it our all when we're at the workplace. And that's something that we want to be doing. And at the same time, everyday life with a family can feel like another working day on top of that regular working day. So what happens with a lot of people is that they will start to feel inadequate. And that's basically because we know very well how to demand from ourselves rather than to start delegating or asking for help. So let us dive in now to the solutions. Let us go and find out what actually works for you. So what about your support network? How is it set up? Do you have parents nearby that can help you? Did you share the work equally with your partner? What about your employer? How is he or she providing for what's going on in your life at the moment? Do you maybe have neighbors that can sometimes babysit? What do you do when your children get sick? Is it possible maybe to see about your working hours? Do you have to be at the office at a certain time, or can you be flexible? And it is good to recognize all these challenging emotions that work around all these everyday life things. So you don't only want to be tackling all the practical parts, you also want to come up with ways to solve the situations that cause these emotions in the first place. So what about routines and schedules and expectations and responsibilities? Do you have those in place to support you? And we will go into routines a little later today. I want you to find out what drains you and what energizes you. And if you still have paper and pen with you, just make 2 columns and write down what is energy draining and what is energy giving to you. And maybe you're able to already start making a shift there. So this really is about finding the balance in your everyday life. And this balance actually is supported by the fact that you have the use of time under control. So a lot to do during rush hours, really. And especially in families with small children, we see that the start of the day, but also around dinner time, these are very hectic periods, because in the morning, you don't only have to get your children ready for school or daycare or anywhere that they're going. You also have to make sure that you are ready for the day. And at the end of the day, everybody's hungry, everybody's tired. You have to come up, or your partner has to come up with something to eat. The children are tired. They demand a lot from you. They've missed you. They still want to see you. These are really hectic periods. So what can you do for yourself to make these periods easier? Well, when it comes to the morning, you actually get a chance to prepare ahead. So the night before, you will make sure that you have your clothes ready, the clothes of your children, the bags for school and for daycare are already ready. Maybe you're able to already make lunch. If it's not provided by school, of course, make your own lunch if you're not able to get it at the office. So make sure that everything is in place. And when it comes to nighttime, again, planning really is your friend here. And what actually will also help is longer term planning. So not just for a day ahead, but also for the week ahead, or maybe even the month ahead. Maybe you're able to make weekly or monthly plans when it comes to mealtime, but also when it comes to finances and all the other chores that needs to be done, right? Who will take the dog to the vet? Who will take the children to their appointments? Who will help them get to the sports that they're playing? But also, when you are taking that into account, plan for what is important to you. Do you want to go to the gym? Plan it ahead and discuss it with your partner. At the moment that your children start growing up, discuss it with them. So what you could do is every Sunday you come up with a battle plan. In our family, for instance, again, maybe a personal story. We sit together for, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes or so every Sunday afternoon, where we decide what it is that we will be eating. I will then order it right away. Yes, I do that online, because I do know when I could be shopping for groceries, but I choose to spend that time with my children. So we decide what it is that we will eat. I will hear from the children when they will play their sports, because especially with my oldest, that sometimes changes. Luckily, he's old enough now to go himself. But I will also discuss with my partner who will be picking the children up when they get sick, for instance, and who will be doing all these chores. And at that time, we also divide the homework that needs to be done. Remember, you have 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of work, and 8 hours off. What can be done in those hours? And here's a fun question for you. What if you got an extra hour per day? What would you use it for? Again, write that down. Write it down right now. If there's something that comes to mind of what you want to be doing in that extra hour, what is it that you want to be doing? So, as I promised, we're going to dive into routines because routines are the things that are going to help you. A certain amount of routines. Please be aware that you can actually also have too many routines, and be honest there with yourself. If you find that you have routines that are working against you, maybe it's time to throw them overboard. But usually a certain amount of routines is what makes life run smoothly. It gives us a chance to automate, and it will create structure for the day and reduce chaos, because that's basically what we're doing here. And in that way, you're actually reducing the mental load on your brain, so you're able to use your brain for what it is meant to be creative, to be loving, to be kind. So what routines do you actually have? Write them down if you're not quite sure about that. And maybe you say, well, I don't have any routines. That is possible. But then I would like to ask you, do you brush your teeth every morning? And hopefully also every evening, maybe even somewhere in the middle of the day. If your answer is yes, you will at least have one routine. And that will also show you that you're able to learn these routines, because brushing, nobody comes out of the womb brushing their teeth. That's really something that needs to be learned. Think about the kind of routines that you want to have. Is it about shopping lists? Is it about scheduling? Is it about the division of responsibilities? But also keep in mind what it is that you like and what you don't. For instance, I hate ironing. So that's a routine that I am happily share with someone else, because that's another thing. Is it possible when you go through your routines, like for instance, cleaning the shower every Saturday morning, is it possible maybe to outsource it simply to lighten your load a little bit? So there are a lot of tasks. And do you have time? Can something be eliminated? If there's more that you want to know about that, I invite you. Oh, I see. I didn't translate that. I hope actually it says that this is a reference to James Clair, Atomic Habits, one of the best books I know about developing habits and routines. So if you want to know more about that, that is a book that you could read. So what about some flexibility at work, basically? Because what we see is that boundaries between work and free time, they're constantly changing, not only because of the demands of society, also simply by what's happening around us, really, but also because what we think is important. So maybe there are moments in time where you demand a little more flexibility. So these boundaries aren't fixed. They change according to your life. They change according to your priorities. And what methods do you use for work? So is 40 hours per week the only possibility? Or is it possible to maybe work remote or to work hybrid? What can you come up with? Basically, what we're looking for is a way out of chaos. So what can you get clear on at work? And the Finnish Institute of Occupational Health actually collected the ideas of 3,000 respondents in a large study on the combining of work and other life. And based on that, this is what they came up with. So workplaces should have clear rules of game, and they're equally applied to all employees. But I want you to know that equality does not, however, always mean that everyone has the same rights and obligations. It does mean that we take into account special situations and that the outcome for everyone is the same. And an open and positive atmosphere is what makes it possible to discuss and agree on all these kind of issues. So look around at your employer, see what is possible there, and see what you can come up with. Because it is good to be aware that, especially in the workplace, you want to be mindful of challenging life situations. So when it comes to setting your own goals and limits, again, this is about losing some of the chaos. Remember that work is a continuum. So work will always be. I mean, how often have you closed down your computer knowing full well that there was still a lot of work to do? So please remember that it will never end. So as hard as you will work and as long as you will work, it will never end. So let's try and find our own relationship to work. And let's learn that tolerating incompleteness actually is a skill. Maybe it's even an art where you're able to say, okay, so this is as much as I could have been as I could have been doing. And this is where I have to stop now. And in that case, also remember that quite often it is about teamwork. It is not just you, usually. I mean, yes, sure, there are exceptions, but usually it's not just you that's responsible to make sure that everything is finished anytime. So find your limit, ask for help, take time off and allow others to do the same. But if you find your limit and set your goal, so what is it that you will be doing and why will you be doing it? Very important here is that you want to be drawing your limits when things are still wonderful, when things aren't going bad, because it's really hard to come up with creative solutions when you already feel overwhelmed. And consider, so again, you have pen and paper here, consider what your limits are. Are there any? And are they the same for your coworkers as well? Are maybe special tasks considered? What does this mean for you personally? Because maybe you finished university or your schooling and you entered the workforce, and then you decided that you would be a certain kind of worker. But when life changes, you change. And that also means that your professional identity will change. And a professional identity consists of the perceptions that you have in relation to work and your profession. And it is built through our learning and through the interaction with other people. And what happens is that this professional identity becomes established and enriched through years of experience and also through increased self-knowledge. So what can you do for yourself there? Because apparently at this time, you're not able to work in a way that you always envisioned yourself. So take time to start reevaluating your professional identity. What strengths is it showing you? Because that's also important. Keep noticing the strengths in there. How are you able to maintain your own skills, even at a time in your life that you're not able to actively develop them? Maybe you're able to reflect with a friend. Make sure that you still get exposed to new things, ideas, experiences. Talk with role models. See if you can find a mentor somewhere within the organization, someone who has been through what you are going through right now. Reading, of course, sharing things, teaching others. I don't know, TEDx is full of ways that you can explore your own professional identity. But also, if you find that maybe you need a little extra, how about volunteering? So let us get back home. What expectations do you have? What things from your own childhood do you wish you could pass on to your children? Again, this is about perceptions. So do you want your children to see that work is being done, or do you want it to be an invisible part of your family's everyday life? Do you want to read them evening stories, or do you expect them to go to bed independently? Do you set strict limits? Is there freedom? All these kind of things are questions that you can ask yourself to structure the life that you have with your children. And you don't have to do it alone. So where do you get support? Who do you turn to in times of need, but also in times of joy? Who can you share things with? And remember, again, because life changes, you change, that relationships also change. So always take into account what it is that you need and what you miss. And maybe, again, if you have pen and paper ready, write down the things that you need, the things that you miss in the relationships that you have. Maybe you're able to start enriching the relationship that you already have. And otherwise, you're able to go and find new relationships that will actually fulfill those needs. Do you need cooperation? Then, in that case, ask. Because it is not evident. People cannot read your minds. So always ask and tell, but also listen to someone else, what they have to share. So this is the fun part, I would say. Let's get clear. What is it that you want? So list the 3 most important things at home. We've discussed the ways, the things maybe that you need, what you want to pass on to your children, but also list the 3 most important things at work. Are they maybe flexible working hours, or maybe you need regular office days, possibility of remote work? What is important to you? And how could you make sure that you have the time and energy for what it is that you want to achieve? And again, remember that your story can change when your life situation changes. So if you want to know more about the subject, these are some podcasts to listen to or some books to read. I already mentioned TED, but I'm sorry, I didn't have the time to find the right TEDx talks, but there are plenty. You can always give me a note if you want to know more, but also there are excellent websites that you can read on. But remember, make sure that if you start reading, that this actually will fit into your already daily schedule. So now I'm going to try and share the Mentimeter that you filled in. Let me see how I can do this. Because this would be the most fun part of it. Okay. Here we are. There we are. You can all see this? Yeah? Good. So working from home is a solution that works. Stop doing things, which I love. That this might be one of the most important lessons. Stop doing things. And sometimes it can be really hard to stop doing things, but make the right decision for you. Not have a bad conscience, which is lovely as well. Yes, you are human. And being human means that you're not perfect. And that's actually what I think makes human beings very interesting. So maybe also it's a very good example for your children that you're not able to juggle everything. A family calendar, lovely for when you want to come up with a battle plan. Trusted working time. Okay, so some people might need that they know these are the hours that I'm working, and outside of that, I'm not. Knowing your own values. Yes, if you know what your values are, you're always able to fall back on these things. These are lovely, and please go through this presentation when you have the time and see the solutions other people came up with. Let me see if I can get back to the original presentation. I probably will be. There we go. See, I'm much more digital than I thought I was. So thank you so much for your time, because today we took the time to explore a life that looks like your own. Not only did you get some information on why these peak years are so burdensome and what is weighing down on you, but you also got a chance to assess what works in life for you and what doesn't. So thank you so much. Oh, the one last tip that I'm going to give you, if there's anything that you want to follow up on from this presentation, start doing it today, because that will actually ensure that you get the most out of this webinar and the time that you spent on it. rather than postponing it to a later day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Claire. I think we have time for one question, and since there are plenty of ideas and tips and tricks on how to managing and combining family and working life, but how would you answer to a question that if a person asks for help and gets all these tips and tricks and suggestions on how to pick the most relevant one for them personally?
You know, sometimes you should go with your gut feeling. Yeah, sure, you could make lists with pros and cons, but that would mean that we would be some kind of artificial intelligence. And actually, what we found out in decision making is just this human capability of trusting our own gut feeling is actually what makes our decision making so much more effective than artificial intelligence, for instance. So if you want to be picking one thing out of this presentation, see what, well, again, someone else already mentioned, know your own values. Maybe you're able to fall back on that, but trust yourself in this. You know what you are doing, and that probably is very suited for your life.
Yes. So knowing where you stand and knowing, as you said, knowing your own values, what is the most important thing for you personally.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Claire, for this very relevant topic for this time of the year also, and in general also. I do want to remind everyone that you will be getting this recording afterwards also by email, so you can come back to this presentation whenever you feel like it and maybe remind yourself about the topics, and perhaps even watch this recording with a family member. So with that, myself and Claire, we want to wish you a very happy December and enjoy the rest of the year. And we will see you again with the next Auntie webinar to be announced. So thank you all and have a great day. Bye.
Bye-bye.